The grand chamber was the largest room park Jesu had ever seen. It floated in space, a massive station made of white metal and glass, orbiting a pale blue world called Palax Prime. Through the tall windows she could see 1,000 stars. Inside, 47 different alien species sat in curved rows that rose up like a stadium. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some looked like insects. Some had no solid form at all, just clouds of light held in special containers. Jisoo stood alone on a small platform in the center. She wore a simple black suit with a small Earth flag on her chest. Behind her, a holographic display showed images of her home planet. Blue oceans, green forests, crowded cities full of humans going about their lives. She had practiced her speech 100 times. Every word was chosen carefully. This was the most important moment in human history. Earth wanted to join the Galactic Trade Compact. This treaty would give humanity access to faster ships, better medicine, and trade routes that stretched across the galaxy. Without it, humans would remain trapped in their small corner of space, struggling to survive while other species lived like gods. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Jisoo began, her voice steady and clear. I come before you today on behalf of 8 billion humans. We ask for nothing more than a chance to trade, a chance to learn, a chance to stand beside you as partners. She clicked a button, and the hologram changed. It showed human achievements. The first moon landing, the Mars colonies, the generation ships that had carried people to distant stars, scientists working in bright laboratories, artists painting beautiful murals, children laughing in parks. We are young, Jisoo continued. We know this, but we have worked hard. We have built cities on 3 worlds. We have cured diseases that once killed millions. We have reached out across the darkness of space because we believe that no species should be alone. She paused and looked up at the rows of alien faces. Most showed no expression. Some whispered to each other. A few looked bored. Then the laughter started. It came from the top row, where the Varel delegation sat. The Varel were tall creatures with hard shells like beetles, 6 arms, and eyes that glowed yellow. Their high speaker, a massive being named Malith, made a clicking sound with his jaws. It was their version of a laugh. Forgive me, Malith said, his voice translated through speakers into 100 languages. Please continue. Tell us more about your moon landing. How exciting that must have been for you. More laughter. The Tarani delegation, beings made of living crystal, played a recording on their display screens. It showed old human cars belching smoke from their engines. They still burn dead plants for fuel, one of them said. How adorable. Jisoo felt her face grow hot, but she kept her expression calm. We have made great progress in clean energy. Your newest reactors are toys, interrupted a Krix representative. The Krix were thin and gray, with large black eyes and fingers that never stopped moving. We had better technology 10,000 years ago. Your entire species is still learning to walk. Chamber filled with noise, clicking, buzzing, strange sounds that Jisoo knew were all forms of mockery. On the display screens around the room, her planet's image was replaced by comparisons. Human lifespan, 80 to 100 years. Krix lifespan, 800 years. Varel, lifespan, 1,200 years. Human fastest ship speed. Varel fastest ship speed. The numbers were not even close. Your species still dies of cellular decay, Malith announced, silencing the others. He stood up, all 6 arms spread wide. You rot from the inside. Your bodies fail you after a single century. And you want to join us? You want to sit at this table? Jisoo forced herself to speak. Every species begins somewhere. We only ask for the opportunity to grow. Grow? Malith's yellow eyes seemed to burn brighter. Little human, you have had spaceflight for only 200 years. Come back in 1,000 years. If you survive that long, if you do not destroy yourselves first, as young species so often do. He raised one of his arms and pressed a button. I call for a vote. All those in favor of denying Earth's admission to the Galactic Trade Compact. The lights on every delegation's panel turned red. Every single one. 47 species. 47 rejections. Motion passed, Maleth said, unanimously. The laughter rose again, louder this time. Jisoo stood frozen on her platform, the hologram of Earth still glowing behind her. She thought of all the people back home who had watched this broadcast. The scientists who had worked for decades. The leaders who had put aside their differences. The children who had grown up dreaming of the stars. They were all watching this moment. They were all hearing this laughter. A hand touched her shoulder. Admiral Choi Sun-woo had stepped onto the platform. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face made of stone. He had commanded warships. He had fought pirates in the asteroid belt. He had never shown fear in his life. But right now, as he looked up at the mocking aliens, something burned in his eyes. Something cold and patient and very, very dangerous. "We should go," he said quietly. Jisoo nodded. She turned off the hologram and walked with Sun-woo toward the exit. The laughter followed them. Someone made a comment about humans walking on two legs like animals. Someone else wondered if they should send Earth a gift basket as a consolation prize. The doors closed behind them. The hallway was empty and silent. Their footsteps echoed on the metal floor. "They have no idea what they have just done," Sun-woo said. Jisoo stopped walking. She turned to face him. Her expression had changed. The diplomatic smile was gone. In its place was something hard, something that had been hiding beneath the surface for a very long time. "Then we will have to show them," she said. Sun-woo almost smiled. "Almost. How long do you think we need?" Jisoo checked her watch. A simple human device. Primitive by galactic standards. But it worked perfectly well for counting down the hours until everything changed. 24 hours, she said. "That is all we need." They walked toward their ship, leaving the grand chamber behind. Above them, the stars waited in silence. They had no idea that the galaxy was about to change forever, and it would all begin with the species that everyone had laughed at. Deep beneath the mountains of Korea, there was a place that did not exist on any map. It had no name on official documents. Satellites could not see it. Even the most powerful scanners in the galaxy would find nothing but rock and dirt. The humans called it Black Horizon. It was a city built underground. Miles of tunnels connected laboratories, factories, and military bases. Thousands of people worked here in secret. They had been working for 40 years, ever since humanity first made contact with the Galactic Council and learned a terrible truth. The aliens were not friends. They were not even neutral. They were jailers. President Yoon Taeyeon stood at the head of a long table. He was a small man with kind eyes and white hair, but those who knew him understood that kindness could disappear in an instant. He had united Earth's nations after the water wars. He had rebuilt cities from ashes. He did not believe in giving up. Around the table sat the most powerful people on Earth. Military commanders, corporate leaders, scientists, spies. They had all seen the broadcast from the Grand Chamber. They had all heard the laughter. 47 species, Taeyeon said quietly. 47 rejections. Not one voice spoke for us. Admiral Sun-woo stood near the wall, his arms crossed. They have been planning this for centuries. Every piece of technology they gave us had hidden limits. Every trade deal kept us weak. They never wanted us to grow. They wanted us to stay small and grateful. A woman at the far end of the table raised her hand. Dr. Kim Nyen was Earth's greatest scientist. She had white streaks in her black hair and circles under her eyes from too many sleepless nights. But her mind was sharper than any computer. "It is worse than that," she said. She pressed a button, and holographic files appeared above the table. Documents, recordings, evidence collected over decades. "We have proof that the Council has been actively sabotaging human development. They destroyed 3 of our research ships. They poisoned our first attempt at a warp drive. In this," she pulled up a medical file, "they have a cure for aging. Full cellular regeneration. They have had it for 5,000 years. They give it to their own people freely. but they classified it as forbidden technology for younger species. They decided that humans should continue to die at 100 years old. Silence filled the room. Everyone stared at the evidence. "They are afraid of us," Ambassador Jisoo said. She had not spoken since entering the room. Now she stood up, her eyes moving from face to face. "I saw it today. Behind the laughter, behind the mockery, they are afraid of what we might become." Taeyeon nodded slowly. "Then perhaps it is time to show them that their fear was justified." He turned to Nayeon. "Project Wildfire. Is it ready?" Nayeon took a deep breath. "It has been ready for 3 years. We were waiting for the right moment. The moment is now," she began explaining. Project Wildfire was not one plan. It was for plans happening at the same time. First, there was the fuel problem. The galaxy ran on a special isotope that only the Vrel controlled. Every species had to buy fuel from them. It kept everyone dependent. But engineer Lee Minho, a quiet young man who sat in the corner taking notes, had built something new. Cold fusion reactors that needed no alien fuel, clean, powerful, completely independent. Second, there was the communication network. The entire galaxy shared one system, controlled by the Council. If they wanted to silence a species, they simply cut them off. But hacker Beek Yaren, a woman with short hair and a permanent smirk, had spent 10 years creating a virus. When released, it would not destroy the network. It would expose every secret the Council had ever hidden. Every crime. Every lie. Every act of oppression. The whole galaxy would see the truth. Third, there was the military problem. The Council had strict rules about weapons. Species could only have ships of certain sizes with certain capabilities. Humans had followed these rules publicly. But in secret, General Shinhajin had built a fleet. 200 warships hidden behind Jupiter, armed with weapons that broke every regulation. Gravity cannons that could crush asteroids, reality-fold missiles that could hit targets before they were even fired, and something entirely new. Something human scientists had invented themselves. They called it a cascade, DISRUPTOR. Fourth, there was territory. The Council controlled all the best space, the richest asteroid belts, the most valuable planets. Humans were allowed only a tiny zone. But Captain Han Yunji, a bold woman with scars on her hands and fire in her heart, was ready to change that. Her strike force would claim 3 neutral asteroid belts in one night. Enough resources to make Earth wealthy for 1,000 years. Taeyeon listened to everything. When Neon finished, he looked around the table one more time. "If we do this," he said, "there is no going back. We will be treaty breakers. Criminals in the eyes of the galaxy. Every species will have the right to attack us." "They were already attacking us," Sunwoo replied. "Just slowly, quietly, making sure we never had a chance to fight back." Jisoo stepped forward. "We do not do this for revenge. We do it for survival. And we do it for every other species that the Council has crushed. Today, they laughed at us. Tomorrow, they will understand what humanity truly is." Taeyeon was quiet for a long moment. Then he pressed a button on the table. Alarms began to sound throughout Black Horizon. Screens lit up with orders. Ships powered on. Soldiers received their commands. By dawn, the president said, "The galaxy will know that humanity is no one's pet." Across the underground city, people moved with purpose. Minho ran final checks on his reactors. Yaren uploaded her virus to a secure server. Hajin contacted his hidden fleet. Yunji gathered her crew, and in the shadows, Agent Kang Woojin prepared for his own mission. He was a spy, a ghost, a man who did not officially exist. While the galaxy watched the obvious moves, he would slip into the Council station itself and steal every piece of technology that ever denied to humanity, including the cure for death. Above ground, the sun was setting over Earth. Billions of people were going to sleep, not knowing what would happen while they dreamed. By the time they woke up, everything would be different. In the Grand Chamber, the The aliens were still celebrating their victory over the foolish humans. They had no idea that the foolish humans had been preparing for this moment for 40 years, the longest night in Galactic. History was about to begin, and humanity was ready. The clock struck midnight on Earth. In that same moment, across 1,000 light-years of space, everything changed. Beak Yaren sat in a dark room filled with computer screens. Her fingers flew across keyboards faster than most people could think. She had written this virus over 10 years, line by line, hiding it in pieces across the galactic network like seeds waiting to bloom. "Ready?" asked a voice in her earpiece. It was Neon watching from Black Horizon. "I was born ready," Yaren said. She pressed one final key. The virus exploded through the network. It did not break anything. It did not crash systems. It simply opened doors. Millions of doors. Every secret file the Council had ever locked away suddenly became visible to every screen in the galaxy, on 100 different worlds. People stopped what they were doing and stared. They saw recordings of council meetings where leaders laughed about keeping younger species weak. They saw documents proving that the Vrel had poisoned water supplies on 3 planets to stop revolutions. They saw evidence that the Tyranni had been stealing genetic material from dozens of species, including humans, for illegal experiments. And they saw the truth about the immortality treatment, available for 5,000 years, denied to most species by council law. While billions of beings grew old and died, the elite lived forever. The galaxy began to scream 40-7 minutes after midnight. Captain Han Yunji gave the order. All ships, drop cloak. Space behind Jupiter rippled like water. 200 human warships appeared from nothing. They were beautiful in a terrible way. Black holes covered in strange angles. No running lights. Silent as death. Youngji stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Silent Thunder. She was not tall, but she stood like a giant. Scars covered her arms from a childhood accident in the shipyards. Those same shipyards had built these secret ships while the Council thought humans were making transport vessels. "Set course for the Palax asteroid belt," she commanded. "Maximum speed." The fleet moved as one. They crossed into Council-protected space without slowing down. Alarms went off on a dozen monitoring stations. Confused operators tried to figure out what they were seeing. Human ships? This many? This advanced? It was impossible by the time they realized it was real. Yunji's forces had already reached the asteroids. Mining drones launched from every ship. They attached to the largest rocks and began cutting. Drills bit into surfaces rich with rare minerals. In 1 hour, humans extracted more resources than the Council had allowed them in 50 years. "The asteroids are ours," Youngji reported. "No resistance yet." 1 hour and 33 minutes after midnight. Agent Kong Wujian moved through the shadows of the Council station. He was alone. He preferred it that way. Teams made noise. Teams made mistakes. Wujin made neither. He had trained for 20 years. He could move without sound. He could open any lock. He could become invisible in plain sight. The Vrel delegation's quarters were heavily guarded. 6 soldiers at the main door. Sensors covering every hallway. Cameras watching every angle. Wujin avoided them all. He came up through the floor. Using a maintenance tunnel that the Vrel had forgotten about centuries ago, he moved through rooms filled with sleeping aliens, their shells rising and falling with each breath. He found their secure vault behind a false wall. Inside were treasures beyond price. Weapon designs that could destroy planets. Engine blueprints that could bend space itself. Medical technology that could rebuild a body from a single cell. And there, in a small glass case, the formula for the immortality treatment. Wujin took everything. He loaded data crystals into his bag until it was heavy on his back. Then he disappeared the same way he had come. He never made a sound. The Vrel would not discover the theft until morning, 2 hours and 15 minutes after midnight. General Shinhajin revealed humanity's true power. The dreadnought Unyielding was the largest ship humans had ever built. It was a mountain of metal and weapons, crewed by 5,000 soldiers who had trained in secret for years. It had been hiding in the darkness between stars, waiting for this moment. Hajin stood on the command deck, screens that showed the location of every council ship in the sector. His face showed nothing. He had learned long ago to keep his emotions locked away. Target acquired, his tactical officer reported. Malith's personal flagship. 10,000 kilometers ahead, Decloka Hajin ordered. Show them what we are. The Unyielding appeared directly in front of the Vrel High Speaker's ship. It was 5 times larger. Its weapons glowed with energy that the Council had never seen before. On the Vrel ship, Maleth stared at his screens in horror. His yellow eyes went wide. His 6 arms trembled. This was impossible. Humans did not have ships like this. Humans could not have weapons like this. This is a declaration of war. Maleth screamed into his communicator. The Council will destroy you. Every human world will burn. Admiral Sunwell's voice came back, calm and cold as ice. He was aboard his own ship, watching from a safe distance. No, he said. This is not a declaration of war. This is a correction. For 200 years you have lied to us. You have sabotaged us. You have laughed at us. Tonight, we correct those mistakes. All of them. The Unyielding's weapons powered up. The Cascade Disruptor, humanity's own invention, hummed with energy. It was not meant to destroy. It was meant to disable. One shot could shut down every system on an enemy ship without killing anyone. We are not here to murder, Sunwoo continued. We are not monsters. We are simply done being your victims. Stand down, High Speaker. Order your ships to retreat. And maybe, when morning comes, we can discuss this like equals. Malith's ship was surrounded. More human vessels appeared from nowhere. Fast attack ships, bombers, carriers filled with fighter craft. The Vrel flagship had no chance of escape. For a long moment, nothing happened. The galaxy held its breath. Then, slowly, Malith's ship powered down its weapons. This is not over, the High Speaker hissed.
Oh.
Suno agreed. It is just beginning. By the time the sun rose on Earth, the galaxy was unrecognizable. Human ships controlled 3 asteroid belts. The Council's secrets were displayed on every screen. The Vrel military was in chaos. And somewhere in the darkness of space, Agent Wujin was carrying home the key to immortality. The longest night was over. Now came the reckoning. The galaxy was burning. Not with fire, but with truth. On Tarani Prime. Crystal beings who had served the ruling class for 10,000 years finally saw the evidence of their own slavery. The recordings that Yaren's virus had released showed council leaders discussing how to keep the worker caste ignorant and obedient. Secret documents revealed that the aristocracy had been stealing the life energy of their own people to extend their lives. The workers rose. Factories shut down. Streets filled with marching crowds. The aristocrats fled to their towers, but the towers were surrounded. By the end of the first day, the Tarani government had fallen. On Crick stations scattered across space, minority groups who had been persecuted for centuries finally found hope. They sent secret messages to Earth asking for help, asking for alliance. They had been told all their lives that humans were primitive and foolish. Now they saw that humans had been strong enough to challenge the Council. Maybe, just maybe, they could help the Cricks change their world too. Ambassador Jisoo received these messages personally. She read each one carefully, her heart heavy with the weight of responsibility. These people were reaching out because of what humanity had done. That meant humanity had a duty to answer. We will help them, she told President Tyone during their morning meeting. Not with soldiers. Not with weapons. With information. We will share everything we have learned. Taeyeon nodded slowly. We did not break the treaties just for ourselves. We broke them for everyone who is being crushed. Malith was desperate. The Vrel High Speaker paced back and forth in his private chamber, his 6 arms waving in agitation. His yellow eyes darted from screen to screen, watching the chaos spread. His own people were beginning to question him. The evidence released by the humans showed that he had personally ordered attacks on human ships. He had signed documents approving genetic experiments on captured humans. He had laughed about the deaths of human children in a recording that was now being played on every news channel. He called an emergency meeting of the Council fleet commanders. 17 species answered. The others refused to respond. "We must strike back immediately," Malith demanded. "The humans are weak. They have only 200 ships. We have thousands. We can crush them within a week." A Tarani general spoke up, his crystal body flickering with angry light. "Our homeworld is in civil war because of what you did. Our ships are needed there, not fighting humans," Crick's admiral agreed. "The humans released evidence that your people experimented on ours. My government is demanding answers. I cannot commit forces to defend Vrel crimes." One by one, the species withdrew their support. Some were too busy dealing with internal problems. Others had discovered that the Council had wronged them too. A few simply decided that the humans had a point by the end of the meeting. Malith had only 6 species still committed to fighting. It was not enough. Not nearly enough. The high and mighty Galactic Council was crumbling. In the laboratories of Black Horizon, Dr. Neon worked without rest. The data crystals that Wujin had stolen contained everything the Council had ever learned about extending life. Neon studied the immortality treatment with growing excitement and growing anger. The science was not even difficult. With minor adjustments, it could work on any carbon-based species. The Council had kept this secret not because it was dangerous, but because they wanted to control who lived and who died. "I can have a working version ready in 48 hours, she told Taeyeon over a video call. "A version that will work for humans. But I want to do more than that." "What do you mean?" Neon's tired eyes shone with determination. "I want to share the formula with everyone. Every species free. No patents. No restrictions. No one should have to die of old age ever again." Taeyeon was quiet for a long moment. Sharing the formula would gain humanity friends across the galaxy. It would also make enemies of anyone who had profited from keeping it secret. "Do it," he said finally. "Let them call us treaty breakers. We broke chains, not laws." The broadcast went out on every channel. Neon herself appeared on screen, explaining the treatment in simple terms that any species could understand. She showed the molecular structure. She listed the ingredients. She described the process step by step. Within hours, scientists across the galaxy were replicating her work. Species that had watched their elders die for generations suddenly had hope. Parents who thought they would never see their children grow up realized they might live for centuries, and everyone knew that it was humans who had given them this gift. On the Council station, Ambassador Jisoo walked into the Grand Chamber for the second time. It looked different now. Many of the seats were empty. The Tarani delegation was gone, recalled to deal with their revolution. The Crick's representatives sat in nervous silence. Even the Vrel section seemed smaller. Several of their allied species had abandoned them. Admiral Sunwoo's fleet was visible through the windows. A constant reminder of human power, Jisoo took her place on the central platform, the same spot where she had been laughed at just days ago. She looked up at the remaining delegates and saw fear in their alien eyes. 2 days ago, she said, "You asked us to come back in 1,000 years. You said we were too young, too weak, too primitive to join your council." She paused, letting the silence stretch. "We decided not to wait. No one laughed this time. Not here to threaten you. I am not here to demand revenge. I am here to offer something better." She spread her arms wide. Partnership. True partnership. Not the false deals your council offered, with hidden traps and secret limits. Real cooperation between species that see each other as equals. The Crick's delegate spoke up. "How can we trust you?" "You broke every treaty in existence," Jisoo nodded. "Yes, we did. Because those treaties were designed to keep us weak. Because those treaties protected criminals and punished victims. We did not break good laws. We broke bad ones." She pressed a button, and a hologram appeared. It showed human doctors treating injured Tarani workers. Human ships delivering supplies to Crick's refugee stations. Human engineers sharing technology freely with anyone who asked? We could have used our power for conquest, Jisoo said. We chose to use it for liberation. The immortality formula we released will save billions of lives across the galaxy. We asked for nothing in return. We do this because it is right. The chamber remained silent, but the silence was different now. It was not mockery. It was consideration. On his throne, Malith watched with hatred burning in his yellow eyes. His empire was collapsing. His allies were abandoning him. The species he had mocked was now offering a new path forward. And the worst part was, many were starting to listen. The reckoning was not about revenge. It was about change. And change once started could not be stopped. 1 year passed. The galaxy was not the same. Ambassador Park Jisoo stood at a podium in a new chamber, built on neutral ground orbiting a star that had never been claimed by anyone. This was the home of the Allied Assembly, the organization that had risen from the ashes of the old Galactic Council. 23 species had requested human leadership. Not demanded. Not forced, requested. They had seen what humanity did when given power. They had watched humans share technology instead of hoarding it. They had received aid without being asked to pay for it. They had been treated as partners instead of subjects. Jisoo accepted the role of first speaker. She did not want power for its own sake. She wanted to make sure that what happened to Earth would never happen to anyone else. The old council ruled through fear, she said in her acceptance speech. They kept species divided and weak. They controlled who could grow and who had to stay small. That age is over. The Allied Assembly exists for one purpose: to help each other. Not to command. Not to restrict. To help, the delegates applauded. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some were made of crystal light. All of them had chosen to be here. In the audience, Admiral Choi Sunwoo watched with quiet pride. His hair had turned completely white in the past year. The stress of leading humanity's fleet had taken its toll, but he did not regret a single decision. After the ceremony, he found Jisoo standing alone by a window, looking out at the stars. You did it, he said. You actually changed everything. Jisoo shook her head. We did it. All of us. You, Taeyeon, Naeon, every human who worked in the shadows for 40 years. She paused. And everyone who trusted us when they had no reason to? What about Malith? Jisoo's expression darkened. He is gone. His own people turned against him. The Varel Empire had collapsed 3 months after the longest night. The evidence released by Yaren's virus had shown crimes too terrible to ignore. Malith's own generals had arrested him. His trial was broadcast across the galaxy. He did not survive the year. Not murdered. Not executed. Simply abandoned. Stripped of his title and exiled to a barren moon where he died alone, despised by the species he had once led. His yellow eyes, they said, were still filled with hate when he took his last breath. Jisoo felt no joy at his death, only a grim satisfaction that justice, in some form, had been served. Dr. Kim Naeon's immortality. Treatment had spread to every corner of the galaxy. Human lifespans now extended to 500 years or more. The oldest humans, those who had been near death when the treatment was released, now had centuries ahead of them. Families would stay together longer. Knowledge would be passed down directly instead of lost. The future stretched out like an endless ocean of possibility. Other species benefited too. The Tyranny workers, once forced to die young while their masters lived forever, now had the same lifespan as anyone else. The Krix minorities, who had been denied medical care for generations, were finally healing. Even species that had been council allies received the treatment. Naeon refused to play politics with people's lives. Science should serve everyone, she said in an interview. That is why I became a scientist. Not for money. Not for fame. To help, she received awards from a dozen species. She ignored most of them. What mattered to her was the data. Billions of lives saved. Billions more that would be saved in the years to come. Captain Han Hunjin no longer commanded a warship after the crisis ended. She had traded her military uniform for a research vessel. The asteroid territories she had claimed were now being mined peacefully, providing resources for human expansion. But Yunji had no interest in staying behind to count profits. She wanted to explore her new ship. The Bright Horizon carried a crew of scientists and adventurers from 6 different species. They traveled to the edges of known space, mapping new stars, discovering new worlds. Every month, they sent back reports of wonders that no one had ever seen before. In one of her messages to Earth, Yunji wrote, "I joined the military because I thought that was the only way to protect my people. I was wrong. The best way to protect anyone is to give them a future worth living. That is what we are building now." General Shinhajin had a different path. He became the architect of the Alliance Defense Fleet, a combined force from all member species designed to protect the New Order. The ships he built were not weapons of conquest. They were guardians. Their mission was to make sure that no species would ever be oppressed the way humanity had been. The Dreadnought, unyielding, was retired. It orbited the moon as a museum, a reminder of the night when everything changed. School children from a dozen worlds visited it every year. They walked through its corridors and listened to recordings of Admiral Sunwoo's calm voice. "We built it hoping we would never use it," Sunwoo said in one recording. "Now we keep it to remember why we had to." Agent Kang Wujin remained in the shadows. Some people knew his name. Most did not. He preferred it that way. The work he did was not meant for public eyes. He tracked down the last remnants of council corruption. He found hidden bases where illegal experiments continued. He brought evidence to light and criminals to justice. He never asked for recognition. He never accepted medals. When Taeyeon offered him a public position, he refused. "The shadows need someone," he said. "I will stay there." President Yoon Taeyeon served 2 more terms before retiring. On his last day in office, he visited Black Horizon one final time. The secret facility had been converted into a historical monument. Tourists walked through the tunnels where the conspiracy had been planned. Exhibits showed the technology that had been developed in secret. A hall of honor displayed the names of everyone who had worked there. Taeyeon stood in the center of the main hall, looking at a simple plaque mounted on the wall. It had been placed there the day after the longest night. The words on it still made his chest tight with emotion. The plaque read, "They laughed at us. We did not forget. We did not forgive. We became what they feared we could be, equals." A young girl approached him. She was maybe 10 years old, on a school trip with her class. She looked up at the old man with curious eyes. "Are you the president who changed the galaxy?" She asked. Taeyeon smiled and knelt down to her level. "No," he said. "I am just one person. The galaxy was changed by millions of people working together. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, spies, diplomats, and ordinary people who refused to give up hope. Will I be able to help change things too?" Taeyeon looked at her for a long moment. This child would live for 500 years or more. She would see wonders that he could not imagine. She would face challenges that had not yet been invented. And she would have the choice, just as humanity had, to be kind or cruel, to help or harm, to lift others up or push them down. "Yes," he said finally. "You can. You will. That is what it means to be human. We never stop reaching for something better." Outside, stars filled the sky. The same stars that had watched the longest night unfold. The same stars that had witnessed the rise and fall of empires. They did not care about treaties, or councils, or alliances. But somewhere out there, in the darkness between galaxies, a truth was spreading. A truth carried by ships, and signals, and stories. Passed from world to world, humanity had been laughed at. Humanity had answered, and the galaxy would never forget.